This is Party of Six, a new concept in business television. We have a group of 4 business leaders from similar industries getting together for a business lunch, along with 2 CNBC Africa journalists. And we let the cameras roll. There'll be revelations.
It is such a changing environment. It's a major threat affecting retailing worldwide.
Retail is a little bit about reinventing yourself, but it's also about waves. You've got to figure out what to do when the wave's behind you. Can you stand on the surfboard and surf it in and reap the reward? But then you also got to pedal back out again to catch the next wave.
There'll be opinions.
What we're trying to do now is to doggy paddle with the tide again.
There's a definite flair and success rate where somebody is passionate about what they do.
There'll be controversies.
But what I want to put it to you is that our customer service, however good you are, and however good you are, and however good you are, it's appalling.
People are fighting over 200 million rand.
Welcome to Party of Six. Today, Party of Six is at the magical Zulu Nyala Country Manor. Situated in gracious Chartwell on the outskirts of northern Johannesburg on 13 beautifully landscaped acres, Country Manor is ideal for conferencing, business trips, meetings, functions and pampering mini breaks. With its spacious grounds and luxurious accommodation, Country Manor is the ideal urban getaway to get back to nature. This week, your hosts David Williams and Nozipho Mbanjwa will be chatting to retailers. CEO of Vestacor, Jacqui McGeehan, General Manager of Hyde Park Corner Shopping Centre, Syd Vianello, Retail Analyst, and Greg Solomon, Managing Director of McDonald South Africa.
Good day everyone, welcome to Zulu Nyala. My name is Solomon, Exec Chef. For starters, we've got a smoked chicken with raspberry, plums, balsamic vinegar and avocado. For main course, you've got yellowtail with baby potatoes. For dessert, you've got a very rich chocolate marquis. It's a very dense chocolate mousse with fresh berries and mint.
Hi, I'm Jacqui McGeehan. I'm the General Manager at Hyde Park Corner Shopping Centre owned by Hyprop Investments. I've been there for 3 years, but I've been in the retail industry as management side for 25 years, and I've even dabbled in having my own retail for 6 years. And I love it.
I'm Greg Solomon. I head up business here in South Africa. Engineer by profession, and I've been with McDonald's forever. We've turned 20 years old in a few months' time. I've been with McDonald's for 18 years, and I feel I've had like 5 or 6 different careers with McDonald's, because I didn't join to become the head of the business. I joined to build restaurants, property, building, real estate. And then asked about 8 years ago by the then CEO, would I take a career change? We can talk about that another time as well. But anyway, I did.
At this table.
We can do it at this table, and I guess I've been in this role for the last 4 years.
I'm Syd Vianello. I've been a stockbroker for about 25 years, researching primarily consumer-related shares. The market changed over that period. When I started, we were generalists, but certainly during the 90s, the industry shifted towards specialization. And obviously, having been involved in the related side, one had to then choose, well, which way you're going to go, because there are a lot of categories that would be classified as part of the consumer sector. And I ended up in retail.
Okay, so I'm Bruce Rubenstein. I am the CEO of a company called Vestacor. I'm a lawyer by training. I did an MBA some while ago. And at that same time, after practicing for about 15 years as a lawyer, I decided to career change and started sort of essentially a family business in the retail environment. Also quite why retail and not mining, I guess, because it's probably one of the most complex and one of the simplest things to anticipate. It happens sort of formally and informally. What we're trying to do now is to doggy paddle with the tide against you.
You've got in South Africa, I think it must be one of the best, whether you call it casual dining, takeaway sectors. I mean, the quality and the competition in South Africa, many countries, where the quality and the range of food available is like it is here.
There's no doubt that it's a hell of a competitive environment. And I say this often to my team right now, this is about stealing market share now. This is not necessarily about here comes this massive flame of market share. Everybody's competing for the same customer. You've got to be cleverer, you've got to be wiser, and you've got to look further.
In this particular space, especially around this fast food space where we're seeing competition tightening the market, surely to be innovative and to break away and to steal that market share, you've got to be on to the next. What do you think we should be expecting as South Africans?
Maybe something that makes life even easier for the consumer. A home delivery type service involving fast foods.
Syd and I have never met, but last week McDonald's Woodmead launched its own delivery. And, you know, equally say, but
they fast these guys?
Yeah, they are. Absolutely. I told you.
You said it and you've already launched it.
There we go. But I think beyond delivery, I think it is about innovation. And sometimes I always say to the guys, sometimes innovation is doing new things, but sometimes innovation is doing the same thing differently.
Right.
Okay. Sometimes when the music stops, you know, you stop dancing. Otherwise, you look stupid, and in the format of, say, retail, you can be in trouble. You know, if you continue hell for leather to grow, you know, I mean, there are realities on the ground. There are a limited number of people who have disposable income, all that stuff sort of trite, and everybody knows about it. And so, you know, you start to work out and do some very sort of anecdotal thinking, and you say, hang on, we're growing space rapidly. We're putting the same things in the same places all the time. What's differentiating? You know, where do we think this growth is coming from? You just keep cannibalizing. I think that it's probably that drives the so-called international thinking about Africa, really see what's happening here.
And the consumer is king, and they will determine the trend, but if you ask them, they won't necessarily know. So, I mean, Henry Ford said, if I asked them, they asked Henry Ford about market research, and he said if I asked them what they wanted, they'd say a faster horse.
One of the challenges our retailers have, especially when they bring international European brands into the country, is the European expectation of growth. It's unrealistic to the South African market. And a lot of times they have huge challenges because internationally they want them to roll out a lot more stores, and locally the businessmen who know the market say there just isn't the demand to have so many stores. And we cannot have as many as you've got in Europe, where in Italy on every corner and in Hong Kong you've got the same store all over the place. The volume of people are just not here.
But what about this big hype about the African, the demographic dividend, and Africa being the next...
Never mind that. There is a retailer in Sandton City, I better not say who it is. I asked one of the sales ladies, where do your customers come from? Her answer is, Bruce, I don't know if it applies to Stuttafords, 90% of the sales in that store in Sandton City are to African customers, not South Africans, period. 90%. I was astonished.
Let's talk about thinking of Africa and South Africa, and we've got empowerment is an imperative for all companies. The black retailers, I mean, are there legendary, I think there are a couple of legendary black retail figures. One thinks of Herman Mashaba from Black Like Me, Tommy Makhatho from BiBi Cash and Carry. These are genuine entrepreneurs who made their businesses when they were at a severe disadvantage with the apartheid. They couldn't get licenses. They weren't allowed to trade in particular areas, and they overcame all those disadvantages.
There's very little involved.
So why is that, sir?
You know why? Because there's no legislation that says that there's got to be.
Why not?
I don't know. In banking, there's legislation. In mining, there's legislation that says it's got to be at 25.1, whatever the percentage may be. In retail, there's nothing. One of the reasons given is that, well, government doesn't really buy much from retail shops.
But I think it's much broader. I think it's very simply a question of regulatory environment. What you've just mentioned, mining, banking, you know, medicines, hospitals, all of those are regulated, highly regulated environment. In other words, government has a lever that can force, you know, that kind of structure into being. In the ordinary retail, it's very difficult to force a customer into a store.
Your empowerment in retail would come through entrepreneurs, because they would need to build a big business which would empower them.
And that's why franchising, am I right, Greg? That's why franchising is it's a massive opportunity to create but 100%. Very, very successful for very large numbers of people who prepare to work hard.
I don't know the answer, but I was going to ask the table, so percentage would we guess of retail is entrepreneurs? I think every business morphs into a big corporate. McDonald started with Ray Kroc as an entrepreneur. So,
well, take the Visa empire, the biggest retail operation in Africa.
Yeah.
You know, we're taking Shoprite and Pepkor and all that. I mean, he didn't start it once again, but he has been the mastermind behind the creation of this gigantic retail empire. Now, he is the entrepreneur.
My sense of entrepreneurial activity in South Africa is being hamstrung, given what's happening sort of in, I guess, the landlord environment.
If we think of a fish and chips, another, a franchise that the National Empowerment Fund is willing to give you the money up front to help you set up, how attractive is that to a black entrepreneur who could get a stake in a mining company? I mean, if you look at the Sunday papers in the past week, people are fighting over 200 million rands. Those are the kind of figures that black entrepreneurs who have the right connections, if I may call it that, are talking about, as against a couple of thousand that you're making monthly off of fish and chips. So it just doesn't seem as if the returns from retail are attractive enough to black entrepreneurs who have the connections to get bigger returns.
But you see, I think that's where possibly the error in the conversation goes when our entrepreneurs want to be gazillionaires.
But that's the culture that's in the mindset.
Where I'm so proud of most of my franchisees are financially wealthy, even more superior than I am, and so they so deserve it. And I think it's those pockets. I guess where I was going, and I'm probably wrong on the statistics, but I'm going to probably just give it a shot. In an article I was reading about 6 months ago, that the dominant economy in China, let's say 70%, is driven by entrepreneurs. The dominant in South Africa is driven by big companies in peristatals.
So one of our strengths in our shopping centre is that being 46 years old, we have a lot of family-owned businesses, and they are very popular, and they have a huge following because of that one-on-one relationship.
But I think what has happened in South Africa is we've morphed from basically an entire infrastructure and a whole industry of privately owned, entrepreneurial driven businesses, almost at the sort of flick of a coin, into these mega corporates. And in my view, the banks and the landlords and that have now got to a point where the demands upon them in terms of shareholder returns and all those good things are so unrealistic that you can't take a chance on a mom and pop.
But maybe Nazip was right on that big bet. We all want to aspire for that 200 million rand deal, and maybe as South Africans we just